Hello and welcome to Connecting Jewish Grandparents, the Grand Plan podcast, the place where we come together to empower joyous Jewish legacy, to help grandparents be the people that they have the power and the gift to be. And each episode, especially where I'm tying it into the weekly Torah portion, I think, wow, this week's Torah message, this is the thing that grandparents need to hear. This is what the Torah, this is the key. And each week I'm surprised anew by how much that week is even more powerful than the week before. So I hope that grandparenting from afar in Parashat Vayishlach was powerful and important to you. Buckle up because Vayishlach, this isn't even just for grandparents. This is absolutely for every single person. But the grandparents. I'll start with the grandparents that I know, that I'm keeping nameless, that I might be coaching. To the grandfather who got so angry at the Brit Milah when the new baby's name was not what he thought it would be. The name at the bris did not preserve the family legacy in the name he imagined. And he told everyone how he felt about it because it ripped his emotions raw. Or the grandmother who let her son-in-law know in no uncertain terms why his political views were not acceptable and why, at the next birthday party, neither of these grandparents were invited to celebrate with their grandchildren. This grandfather did not get to go to his new baby grandson's first birthday because of how he acted at the Brit Milah. And this grandmother, well, I'm going to go into what she is not currently a part of. But it's not funny. It is so relatable. Estrangement, distancing, intentional distancing because of what was said or what wasn't said or how it was said. When people bear their emotions because we are humans with big emotions, we cut people out. We put up our boundaries and say, wait, my boundaries were not respected. I don't want to speak to you. This is a toxic relationship. I'm going to sever it. And in some cases, yes, there are obviously toxic relationships out there. But for people that are just letting others know how they feel, because it's important to them to no longer have a place in the family, to be cut off, to be ripped out of a family because of an action, a statement, a scenario. What are we supposed to do with that? Well, thankfully, the Torah tells us exactly what to do with that. Remember, we've been talking about Yaakov, and in last week's Torah portion, we look at Yaakov on the road and how he got married and how he gets married again and again and has all these kids. But how did he end up there? On the run from his brother Esav. And what he did to Esav, the taking of the birthright, the tricking of their father, that's not the same as getting upset at the baby's name at a bris. And it's not the same as sharing your political opinions. It really is a lot more severe. It was significant. So it could be that they'll never meet again. They went their separate ways two parshiot ago, right? Yaakov is on his own. But really, is that the best? To be ripped apart and that is all? In this week's Torah portion, we have Yaakov still on the road, still moving along with a much larger family. And he knows that Esav is nearby after years of unresolved conflict. What is Yaakov going to do? And what he does do becomes one of the most powerful reconciliation blueprints, templates in our tradition. Okay, right? We see Yaakov. We know that Esav wants him dead. And Yaakov hears that Esav is heading his way, not just meandering alone, and not with his big family like Yaakov is with his big family. No, Esav is heading his way with 400 men. Can you imagine the fear that grips Yaakov? What can he do? When I tell my students about this, maybe I don't paint the stakes as high as they really were. I don't. I don't think that my little kindergartners can grasp that level. But they always say he should hide. He should maybe bury himself in the sand so we won't be seen. Maybe he can hide behind a tree so Esau won't see him. Yaakov does not hide. He does not break down, and he does not fight. His goal is to avoid fighting. It always has been. Instead, he takes 3 steps, 3 elements which become the templates of what modern psychology teaches us about repair. Right? We're going to go through this 3-step process, and I'm going to explain it for Yaakov. But I want you to understand, and maybe even before we go too deep into Yaakov, I want you to take a moment for yourself and think about what relationship for you needs some reconciliation. Where has there been rupture without repair? And as I said, it probably is nowhere near as significant as what happens between the brothers of Yaakov and Eisav. But is your relationship ideal between you and, obviously, I'm always talking about you and your grandchildren, which is then to you and your children and children-in-laws. But what about your spouse, your siblings, your neighbors? So think about where you could use this Yaakov 3-step model for reconciliation. Step 1, secure the situation. Yaakov divides his camp in 2. He splits up, all right, Leah and your kids this way, Rachel and your kids this way. This isn't preparing for the worst case scenario. He believes if Esav comes and attacks to kill, at least half of his family will survive the brutal assault. Now, on the one hand, that's incredibly grim. But in this way, Yaakov is taking control where he can control. This is problem-focused coping. This reduces a person's fear because they now have a sense of agency. Yaakov has control over something, and where he does have control, he's going to use it, right? So he'll split in 2 groups, and you can say for all the brutal reasons, but he's doing it because he can do something. He can protect who he can protect, he can do what he can do, and he feels empowered, or at least his fear is reduced by this sense of agency. Think about when you prepare for something, when you make a plan, when you clarify boundaries, when you think ahead. Your emotional body relaxes. You are in control. You might not be in control of everything, but how good does it feel when you have a plan, when you have autonomy or agency in a situation? When you're able to do this, you feel calmer, you show up calmer and clearer and more grounded, right? If you picture that frenetic energy of, I don't know what's happening here, I don't know what to do, it's really overwhelming. So by having this agency, you are going to be calmer and more capable. This is what Yaakov does, and this aligns with problem-focused coping research. This is what the experts out there say to do. When you reduce the unknowns, you reduce the emotional charge. And this is what is done in crisis situations all the time. When you feel that you have some level of power and control, you feel much calmer. Said differently, before you work towards reconciliation, you have to create an internal sense of safety. If you go into a conversation, really any conversation, but certainly one with a goal of resolution, you have to go in feeling calm and feeling a sense of internal safety. And the best way to do that is to be able to exercise the level of agency you have. What are you going to wear for that conversation? Where is it going to take place? Right? What can you control? And you cannot control everything, but the things you can control that will help you feel better, do. Don't focus on the things you cannot control. All right. Yaakov's second step. Can you guess what it is? He prays. He turns to the heavens and he asks the Almighty for strength and protection. And I want to make it clear that prayer is not just a passive act. It's definitely not just some utterance of words. Lehitpalel, the Hebrew word for to pray, it's a reflective verb. It's like you are praying on yourself. It's reframing. So, yes, for Yaakov, the Almighty answers him directly and they get to move in dialogue. You and I do not have that incredible divine privilege. But prayer for us still works as a reframing tool. When you're able to call out to the heavens on your struggle, it is a way, an instant way, really, to reframe and to put yourself in a framework of support. I could just advocate for prayer, but there are other parallels that people can and should employ maybe every day, but certainly in a reconciliation process. If you're not talking to the Almighty, talk to a therapist. That is what they are for as well. It's also for the reframing and the coping. You don't want to speak to a therapist? Find a trusted friend to confide, to explore, to be able to help reframe internally the struggle that you want to fix. You don't want to speak to somebody yet? Then journal it, write about it, reflect on it. And of course, I personally advocate for coaching. That's where I come in. I would love to help you work through these processes in becoming the grandparent you want to be in the relationships you want to be having. Show notes, free call, let's do this, grand plan. But whichever of those you choose, therapy, talking to friends, journaling, praying, coaching, these practices help you process your fears. They reshape your narrative and they help you move from reactivity to compassion. And that list is not meant to be an exclusive list where you choose one. Oh, I spoke to a friend about it. Oh, I did some tefillah. I really recommend as many of those as possible, like how you're needing it. It's not really a one and done. Okay. So just to review a little bit before we get to step three. Step one that we looked at, right, was autonomy. Have as much control as you can. Prepare in a way that is reasonable and practical so that you feel empowered and autonomous. Two, be able to get reflective help. prayer, therapy, coaching, journaling, friends, and being able to reshape where you are in that internal struggle. And now, number three, what does Yaakov do next? He sends gifts, a lot of gifts. Like he keeps sending groups ahead with more animals to Esav. But these gifts, they're not bribes. I want to make that very clear. They are gestures of respect and humility. The goal is not to buy Esav's love. It is to humble himself and say, I should find the words exactly that he says. Say the following to Esav. Your servant Yaakov says, I've been staying with Laban until now, and I've remained there, and I've acquired all these animals. I'm summarizing now. And I've acquired cattle and donkey and sheep and male and female servants. I'm sending this message to my Lord to find favor in your eyes. That's the first message that he sends them. But then he keeps sending more and more groups. Um, I can't find the exact pasuk. He keeps sending more in staggered gifts, but again, they are not bribes. Modern psychology calls these repair attempts. I, depending on the scale of what you're trying to repair, I really recommend John Gottman and his Love Labs and all of his work on the horsemen of repair or the horsemen of damage and repair. The idea of repair attempts is enormous. It's you actively doing something to engage with the person with whom you have a severed relationship. I don't recommend that you send the camels and the sheep and the goats that Yaakov sends to Esav. It's about making it personal. It's a handwritten note. It's a sincere apology. It's a small, thoughtful gift. Whatever that item is, and you really know the person well that you are trying to reconnect with, you know who they are. So, whatever it is that you are gifting them in a repair attempt, the gesture, the goal is to say, I see your dignity. I value our relationship. I am humble before you. I, I want to make it clear because I think that sometimes people rush into one of two directions. That repair means throwing gifts at someone, and it feels nice. Like it's easy and fun, like, oh, I was wrong, let's go to Disney. I'm gonna take you away on an exciting vacation, and that way I'm gonna send you something expensive, and that way you'll forgive me. But that's not it because it's not doing the hard work. So there's the throwing a gift and only doing step three, which isn't exactly what happens in step three, but still. And there is just doing the the first two, which is how do I prepare for the worst? What am I going to do? How am I going to take care of this next time? How much control do I have in the situation? And talking about it with everybody you know, I am still so hurt. I'm still so this. I'm still so that. You have to have all three of these together to be able to move forward. It has to require action, not just intent. Now, Yaakov does all three of these steps. And then, before the actual encounter with Esav, is an iconic moment in the Torah. And this is where Jacob, Yaakov, wrestles with an angel through the night. You can picture the scene. And the commentators say, who is this angel and what does it mean? In this context, it doesn't really matter. What you need to know, and what you probably already know, is that every repair involves a wrestling match, an internal wrestling match, wrestling with your pride and your fear and your memory and your narrative and your guilt and your broken dreams. And you're wrestling with those all of the time because, well, they're there and they're such a part of you. The, as grandparents, you feel misunderstood and you feel blamed and you feel invisible and you feel unappreciated. You have to honor this struggle as part of the process, not the failure. That struggle, that internal wrestling match is very real. And knowing it and owning it is part of the reconciliation process. It's not part of the three-step process that the Torah outlines that Yaakov implements. It's the reality. It is what you are going through today. So the Almighty makes it very clear in the Torah. This struggle always was and always will be. So I want to articulate again that this isn't just a you problem. Estrangement is really rising. I could try to unpack the reasons, and there are many reasons. But how family values are lived today from the outside society makes it worse. It makes it harder to maintain the family bonds in the way that you as grandparents experienced them with your grandparents. Globalism has a lot of gifts and a lot of setbacks. So the estrangement is not just your fault, and it is a reflection of society at large. But let's look at what the Torah gave us long before modernity. Our three-step Torah model can help and will help anyone seeking reconciliation if you really work to implement it. Step one, create emotional safety, autonomy, control where you can to lower the emotional stakes. Two, seek support and reframe prayer, coaching. Check the show notes. Give me a call. I want to help you do it. And in the meantime, call a friend, call a therapist. And offer respectful gestures with sincerity. That's step three. Again, it's not buying them a car. It is showing your humility and your desire to fix things. Now, I can't guarantee that following these steps will bring about reconciliation. I can't guarantee it, but it does guarantee that you will show up with integrity and clarity and love. The grandparents that I shared about in the beginning are struggling because of their relationship with their children or their in-laws. And then that creates a barrier, really a very large barrier between them and their grandchildren. But maybe your reconciliation is only with a grandchild. And as I said before, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a sibling or a neighbor. Still, step one, prepare. Know what you want to say and lower the emotional temperature. Step two, do the inner work. Pray, speak to someone, reflect. And step three, offer that gesture. A photo, a note, a kind message, Something small and meaningful, a box of cookies, a bouquet of flowers. Those aren't so small, but they also aren't so large. Again, it's not about the item, it's about the intentionality. I'm curious which of these three steps is the hardest for you. Like, ask yourself, where is it that it is a struggle for you to implement this phenomenal, biblical, three-step reconciliation process? And wherever you're struggling in it, I'm here to help you. Please reach out. There is nothing I want more than for the grandparents to be the grandparents they can be, to fix what is broken and come through shining. That's really my bracha for all of you, that we can heal, be brave, heal, and excel. Know your potential, know the hurdles, overcome those hurdles, and shine with possibility for who you are today and what you're leaving in your legacy. I That is my bracha for all of you. And please let me know, reach out for how this is going, where you're able to repair, where's your struggle along the way. I want to hear it for coaching, but personally, I want to know that you are succeeding. All the best to peaceful repair and reconciliation.